All right. Let's dive into something we all know, breakfast. But we're going to look at it from around the world. We found this really cool article. It's from Rec and Talk, and it has pictures of kids and what they eat for breakfast from all different countries.
Oh, wow.
It's really cool. So yeah, get ready to get hungry.
You know, it's funny how we think of breakfast as just like, same old every day.
Right, totally.
But it's actually, it really tells you about different cultures, like what they value, their traditions, even how they think about, kids growing up.
I never thought about it like that. So this article, right off the bat, it says something kind of interesting. It says, quote, Americans, they kind of lack imagination when it comes to breakfast. What do you think? Is there any truth to that?
I mean, it does make you stop and think, right? Like, how often are we just, like, grabbing the same cereal or toast? Like, we don't even really think about it.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so this article, it's got all these pictures of these adorable kids, and they're from 8 different countries. And the breakfasts, I mean, wow, they are so different, just like where they're from.
That's awesome.
So are we ready to kind of like explore this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what we got.
Okay, first up, Iceland. We meet Berta. She's 3.5, and she's having something called heffergroder, which is basically, oatmeal porridge.
Okay.
Pretty normal. Yeah.
At first glance, you'd think so. But remember, this is Iceland, the land of the midnight sun, or, not much sun, especially in the winter.
Right.
It's that oatmeal. It's packed with energy, the kind she needs to stay warm, keep going during those long, dark days. And, did I mention there's a side of cod liver oil?
Cod liver oil. Okay. I have to admit, that's not the first thing I think of for breakfast.
Right.
But I guess it makes sense, when there's not much sunlight.
Exactly. It's like their food traditions changed, to match where they live, what they need, and it's not just the nutrition. Cod liver oil in Iceland. It's like this old tradition. People there have been using it for centuries.
Yeah.
Pass it down through families to make sure their kids are healthy and strong, especially with those harsh winters they have.
Wow, that's so interesting. It's like food is way more than just, what you eat to stay alive. It's like tied to their whole history, their survival.
Totally.
Okay. So from Iceland, super cold Iceland, we're going to a completely different place, Turkey. It's warm there. And we meet this 8-year-old, Doga. And her breakfast, I can only describe it as like a feast.
Oh, yeah. Doga's breakfast, it's like a perfect example of, in Turkey, food is like a big social thing. It's about family traditions.
Oh, cool.
Her spread has honey and this clotted cream they call kaymak and olives. And then there's like fried eggs with this spicy sausage. Cheeses, jams, pastries, fresh vegetables. It's like a beautiful mix of flavors, textures, everything.
I'm getting hungry just listening to you. My toast and coffee is feeling pretty boring right now.
But that's what's so great about, checking out other cultures through food. It makes us think differently about things. It opens our minds to like all these new possibilities. And in Turkey, breakfast is, it's their time to slow down, connect with family.
Yeah.
And just enjoy all that delicious food.
So it's not just about the food itself, right? It's like the whole experience being together, like food brings people together.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, listener, get ready. Because the next stop, it might surprise you. We're going to Japan. To meet Saki, she's 2 years old, and you are not going to believe what this little kid is having for breakfast.
Oh, this is where it gets interesting. So Saki's breakfast has natto, which is fermented soybeans. It's this traditional Japanese food. And it's got a very distinctive flavor and texture. It takes a while to get used to it, even for grown-ups.
Natto. For a 2-year-old, that's pretty adventurous. I've heard of natto, and I gotta say, I don't know if I could handle it for breakfast.
It's definitely not your typical Western breakfast, but in Japan, it's like a healthy staple. Everybody eats it. And it shows how, different cultures can like change what we think is normal to eat, what might seem weird to us. In another culture, they love it. It's their favorite food.
It's true. We got to keep our minds open, right? Not be afraid to try new things. Plus, the article, it mentioned that fermented foods like natto are really good for your gut.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And besides the gut health, natto is a big deal in Japanese cooking traditions. They've been eating it for centuries. It's a part of their culture, their history,
That's amazing. Okay, so we've had hearty oatmeal in Iceland, a breakfast feast in Turkey, and fermented soybeans in Japan. What's next?
Let's go to South America. To Brazil. We're going to meet 2 siblings. Aricia, she's 4, and her brother, Hakeem, he's 2. Aricia is having chocolate milk. Pretty standard for a 4-year-old. But Hakeem, he's having coffee.
Wait, Coffee. For a 2-year-old, I think I need a cup of coffee just to understand this.
You heard that right. For lots of families in Brazil, giving their little kids coffee, it's normal. It's their tradition. They think it helps kids focus better in school.
Wow. Coffee. You know, in a lot of places, it's like, ooh, an adult drink, right? But in Brazil, they're giving it to kids. It's really interesting how they think about kids and what they should eat and drink.
Yeah, for sure. It makes you question, like, what we think is right for children. And it just shows how food and drinks, they can become like symbols of what a culture is all about, even when kids are little.
It's really interesting. All right, so from Brazil, with their coffee-loving kids, we're going to Europe. Let's see what they're having in the Netherlands. We meet Viv. She's 5. And her breakfast, you might think, oh, I know that. But then there's this twist. It's a little unexpected.
Yeah, Viv's breakfast, it's like this mix of like normal stuff and then something you wouldn't expect. She's got milk and then bread with unsalted butter.
Okay, pretty standard.
But then she sprinkles chocolate sprinkles all over it. They call them hagelslag, I think.
Hagelslag. Sprinkles on bread. What you think, listener? Would you try that?
It might sound weird if you didn't grow up in the Netherlands, but over there, hagelslag on bread. It's like their national thing. The article even said they eat like over 750,000 slices of bread with chocolate sprinkles every day. It's crazy.
Wow, that's a lot of sprinkles.
I know, right? It shows that they love that mix of sweet and salty.
Yeah.
And it's like food can be fun, you know?
Right.
Even breakfast.
Totally. It's not just about eating to, like, stay alive. It's about enjoying it. Speaking of simple breakfasts, but good, you know. Let's go to Malawi. We meet these twins, Philip and Shalene. They're 4 years old. And their breakfast, it shows how, like, what grows in a place and how they cook there. It really shapes what people eat.
Yeah.
So they're having this sweet corn bread. It's called chicken de mollo. And they cook it outside in a pot over a fire.
Cool.
It sounds so good. And the article said they also have boiled potatoes and black tea with sugar. It's simple, but it seems like, you know, it gives them energy for the day.
Exactly. It just shows that a good breakfast doesn't have to be like fancy or expensive. And this chicken de mollo, it's like their main breakfast food in Malawi. They make it with just cornmeal and sugar. It's really clever how different cultures use what they have to make good food.
I love that. Okay, I've got time for one more breakfast stop before we finish up this food tour. We're going back to Japan. This time we meet Koki. He's 4. And his breakfast, it's all about balance. Lots of different things. And fresh ingredients. It's like what they focus on in Japan.
Oh yeah, Koki's breakfast is like a little adventure on a plate. He's got green peppers cooked with these tiny dried fish. Then there's raw egg mixed with soy sauce on top of rice. And kimpira, which is with lotus root and burdock root and carrots all cooked together. It's really good. And then miso soup, grapes, Asian pear, and milk.
Wow. That is a lot of different flavors and textures. It's like a party in your mouth, all before the day even starts.
It is. And it shows that Japanese idea of washokus, which is like their philosophy about food. It's about how food should look and the seasons and being connected to nature. It's like a whole way of thinking about eating, you know?
It's amazing how much meaning can be packed into just one meal. So listener, we've taken you from Iceland to Turkey, Japan to Brazil and more. What was your favorite part?
The crazy ingredients, all the different flavors, or maybe like how each breakfast is connected to their culture.
It's so cool to me how breakfast, something we do every day, can tell us so much about a culture, what's important to them, how they see food. It shows that there's no one right way to do breakfast, or really any meal.
Yeah, totally. It's about being open to all the different ways people eat and seeing how food connects us all. So as we wrap up our little breakfast world tour, it's really amazing how much we can learn from other cultures, you know, about how to make breakfast more interesting, more thoughtful. Yeah. For sure. We've seen breakfasts that are all about being healthy, like Berta's oatmeal and cod liver oil in Iceland. And then, you know, breakfasts that are about family, like Duga's huge spread in Turkey.
And little Hakeem in Brazil. Starting his day with coffee. I mean, it shows us that there's no one way to do breakfast. Every culture has their own idea of what's good for kids.
Definitely. What might seem weird to us is totally normal somewhere else. It's all about what their culture is like.
So, before we go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you could, design the perfect breakfast for a kid, what would it be? You know, thinking about good stuff, culture, and taste. What would you put in it?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it'd be cool to take a little bit from all the places we talked about. Like start with something with red grains, you know, for energy. Oatmeal or that chicken moyo.
Yeah.
Then some protein like eggs or yogurt. And of course, fruits and veggies for all the good stuff.
I like it.
Yeah.
And we gotta add something fun, something different from another culture, like a little sprinkle of those hagelslag, like the Dutch, or maybe a side of miso soup, Japanese style.
Yeah. There's so many options. The important thing is to be open to new things. Try different flavors, different ingredients. Make a breakfast that's good for you and tastes amazing.
This whole deep dive, it's really opened my eyes to how many different ways people do breakfast around the world. It's amazing. I hope you feel inspired to, listener, to think beyond just cereal and try some new breakfast adventures.
And remember, breakfast is more than just like fuel. It's a way to connect with your culture, spend time with family, and nourish yourself in a way that feels good.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this delicious journey. If you want to see those amazing photos we talked about and get even more breakfast ideas, check out the article from Reck and Talk. The link is in our show notes. Until next time, happy eating.